I've talked about how important it is to know the exceptions for the new web accessibility rule under Title II of the ADA. Well, I'm on my guide for the new Title II rule on accessibility. And the reason I'm starting out at the top of the guide is I want to show you the table of contents because it is quite extensive. And if you have any questions about this new rule, they are likely going to be answered in this table of contents. But for now, I'm going to go to the link for what are the exceptions under the new rule, and we get to the section in the article for this. And so the exceptions are archived content, pre-existing electronic documents, the content posted by an independent third party, individualized documents that are password protected, and then pre-existing social media posts. So these bullet points that I just listed all potentially do not have to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. But what's important to note is there are conditions that must be met for some of these different exceptions. So let's go through the different exceptions, starting with archived web content. So web content that meets all of the four following points qualifies as an exception. First, the content was created before the deadline for compliance or reproduces paper documents or the contents of other physical media, so audio tapes, CDs, etc., that were created before the date of compliance. And two, the content is only for reference, research, or record keeping purposes. And three, the content is held in a section specifically for archived content. And four, the content has not been updated or changed since being archived. All right, so note number 3 here, the content is held in a section specifically for archived content. So be aware of that. Make sure that your content is organized under an archived content section. And then also note a theme that will come up again is the content was created before the date of compliance. So that isn't today, that's not in the next few months, but it is when the compliance date for the public entity comes up, then the content created thereafter needs to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. And then here we have also the content is for reference, research, or record keeping purposes only. And then also with the fourth point, the content has not been updated or changed since being archived. So what the DOJ was getting at here is they want to make sure that this content is not being used or it's not active, it's not being relied upon. So with number 2 and number 4, keep in mind that the content needs to be only for reference, research, or record keeping purposes, and that it has not been updated or changed. So that is for content that meets the archived web content exception. And now scrolling down, I have a really nice document with the cover ADA Title II document accessibility. We have all of the icons for the relevant types of documents. And in this case, these are the Microsoft branded documents, but the next exception is for pre-existing electronic documents. Is it the name it traditional? Yeah, pre-existing traditional electronic documents. So this exception has only 2 points and they are very easy. The documents are word processing documents, presentation, PDF or spreadsheet files, and then also the documents were available on the state or local government's website or mobile app before the date of compliance. Notice that theme, before the date of compliance. So be aware of any spreadsheets, Word documents, PowerPoints, PDFs, all of those types of documents can potentially meet this exception as long as they are one of those formats or one of those types of documents, and then they were also on the website before the date of compliance. The third exception is a very simple one, and it is that if a third party posts content to a website or a platform, and the public entity they're not going to be in control of that document, so they're not responsible for independently posted content. And the DOJ provides the example of a message posted on a message board, but I'm not aware of too many message boards being used. I mean, potentially they are, but I think of this as someone posts a comment on Facebook. Maybe it includes an image, and so the image doesn't have alternative text. And in that case, the public entity would not be responsible for the independent post. But one key here is that the independent post is not from let's say a social media agency that is posting on behalf of the public entity. So keep that in mind. This is going to be content that is outside of the control of the state or local government. All right, moving on to the fourth exception, we have individual password protected documents. So in addition to old documents, the DOJ provided an exception for individual password protected documents, such as an old water bill. But there are 3 conditions to meet this exception. 1, the documents are the document types that I talked about earlier. So word processing documents, PDFs, presentations, spreadsheets. The documents are about a specific person, property, or account, and they are password protected. All right, and then the last exception here is pre-existing social media posts. So here, again, we're concerned with posts that are made before the compliance date. So we go back to that theme. Anything that is before the compliance date can potentially have an exception under this new web accessibility rule. So those are the 5 content exceptions under this new rule. It is so important to know about these exceptions. I will link to this page on accessible.org. I will link to it in the description so you can find out more about these exceptions, and then also potentially answer other questions about the new web accessibility rule for Title II of the ADA. And I will include more resources on services through accessible.org, as well as training. I highly recommend the WCAG course, and I will link to that course in the description.